Hello, my Play-Doh children, and welcome to the East Coast. And do you know what's cooler than fleshy heroes? Why, mecha villains, of course. Today, we're going to be making our favorite and most unlikely of woodland creature heroes, Sonic the Hedgehog, more specifically, Mecha Sonic from 1992's Sonic 2. And as expected with all good mechs, our Mecha Sonic has an aluminium brain upon which we can apply an initial layer of mystery material. As seen on several Make Around Thing Rounder clay tutorials on the interwebs, if you take a circular shape and scrape it over the surface of a slightly out of shape sphere, you will achieve a more spherical sphere. Using the advanced screenshot function on my phone and some tracing paper, I'll trace out the general proportions when really all I'm after here is the general shape of the cyclopean eye. And with that said, I'll cut out a single eye that is supposed to resemble Sonic's jewel-wielding peepers and trace them onto the future face. Next comes a thick layer of bacon bond upon which I can position the metal skin, which I can chop and shape to my heart's content as we have already baked the underlying layer. I'll carve out the relatively central strip for a future metal mohawk, send this off for yet another bake, and goop up a muzzle. I find the quickest, easiest, and most effective way to show rivets is using a graphite-less mechanical pencil. The reason for this is brevity. And it's easy. The head goes back in the oven and I can use a circular cutter to cut some circles for the previously mentioned robot mohawk, which, if you've ever played the game, will know that they are both for style, but more importantly, for doing a murder. It was around this time that I was thinking of a mashup name for Mecha Sonic, and my brain instantly went to Monica. And I can't unhear that now, so I guess Mecha Sonic is actually an evil fembot created by the patriarchy to take down Big Hedgehog, who have been monopolizing nocturnal activities for generations. And with that rabbit hole, or hedgehog hole, sufficiently explored, Monica's head is all but complete and we can focus our undivided attention on her body. And remember, if you are indeed enjoying the content, please feel free to like the video, hit that subscribe button for more mediocre sculpting like this, or even hate watch like some kind of mecha West Coast creator. Any engagement is good engagement as far as the mecha YouTube algorithm is concerned, and it helps support and promote the channel to a wider audience. I use a pasta maker for this because Ireland and Italy are essentially the same thing on account of we're both European countries that start with the letter I, we both have traditionally sexy accents, and we are both equally revered on a global stage for our rugged good looks. But if you don't happen to have a pasta maker of your own, you can easily use a couple of stir sticks and a rolling pin as seen at the beginning of this video and up here. Using a straight blade, I can cut out the body plate shape needed to wrap around the body and trim the shape accordingly. And for reasons best known to past Keith, I removed a semicircle from the center so that I could replace it with an ever so slightly smaller semicircle, which I think looks, well, terrible. In any case, I add the rivets and I add the bolts to the chest, to which my fiance would ask me, why does a robot have nipples? And now I can't unsee it, and thanks to this story, neither can you. Now let's give Monica the base of an explosive appendage, because this, A, seemed easier than making a robot hand, and B, the rule of cool. I'll make the duo of childbearing hips and then make a couple of wheels for our queen of roller disco. As surprise to no one, the wheel begins as a flat circle that I can poke with a ball stylus, drop a ball inside the stylus created divot, poke that ball with the same stylus, cut in a tire rim with the circle cutter, drop a smaller ball inside this, followed by a final pokey poke. From here, I can add on various greeblies to make the robot look busier than she is, including a band on the muzzle, a control panel of sorts, lots of rivets, and a trio of... I don't know what these are, but I think I saw them in a video game once and they looked cool, so I'm putting them on. And that's the arm cannon as done as I'm willing to commit to, so we'll give Monica some knee protection for undisclosed reasons and then make some oversized Sideshow Bob shoes. The shoes are relatively simple. So simple in fact that I opted to add a random strap over the top and then some steel caps. For the rear calf springs, I twist a very thin, very soft armature wire back on itself, cut to size and glue to the back of the leg. I'll then add some Predator-esque claws to the left hand because, you know, aging millennial man-child. I can then see how she's looking fully assembled, and she's looking a little too Saturday night and not enough Sunday morning for my liking, so let's make a mess. With the clay baked, we can file away, carefully roughing up the edges and using a blade to chip in some harsher lines. Now, I've only gotten to do this once before on my Wolverine Jaeger, and I can honestly say that messing up your sculpts has an unbalanced satisfaction when compared to the time it takes to make them. And with that, the sculpting is all done and it is prime time. And I can't afford primer. So what I like to do is upload my model to Photoshop and prime it in here. I can then download the prime model and continue with the paint job. The paint job here is kinda well thought out, hence
Stage 1.
I'm giving the already primed shoes a white primer, and I'll leave that alone for a bit and brush the entire body in a layer of gunmetal. I'm using baking paper here as my dry brush palette, as paper towels and newspapers absorb a lot of the pigments from your paints, leaving you with a very powdery finish. And with that complete segue, here's what a part-time YouTuber sees when trying to see what he or she is doing. Hello, Fred.
Stage 2.
Stage 2 of the dry brushing will be conducted with a bright silver. I'll perform this step with a little more care as silver actually applies really well, and I want it as the primary colour but also as the highlights. As an FYI, that green primer is actually a grey primer, and I don't know why it looks like that.
Stage 3.
Those white wedding shoes become the girl in the bar of the hotel at 2 AM drinking her 6th shot of tequila kinda orange sassy. Then all the black parts get a super careful paint job, starting with the eyes, then the cutesy little nose, and we can finish up the black trims on those tires.
Stage 4.
It's time for a wash. Firstly, the sassy orange rollerblades get a thin red wash before the entire body gets its own rub down in black goo. I'll periodically and systematically dab at the surface with a sponge, leaving the black in the recesses for recess shading. This dries pretty quickly, and I gotta say that I think she is looking pretty epic. I'll then move on to the cyclopean eye, which I can paint orange, add bright white to the center of, and use a wet palette to blend some yellow through the center for a nice gradient.
Final stage.
This is Vallejo's Mecha Weathering Rust Texture Paint, and I love it. This is my first time trying to use this rust technique, and I think the results speak for themselves. This actually made me want to make more metal things just so I could rust them up. I might actually start playing pranks around the house and just start rusting inanimate objects. And that's the paint job almost complete, but as the black wash toned everything down, I'll give all the edges one last fresh silver highlight and finally stipple some onto the two clean shoes. I do love the pop of colour in the eyes and on the feet, so I got to thinking, how do we ignite that plasma cannon real quick? This is a cabochon. It's a small glass lens that is flat on one side and domed on the other. I'll stick it to the bench with some blue tack and paint the flat side orange with several coats. Once dry, I'll super glue it into the barrel, and I think that looks just fantastic. Love it! And now Monica needs a base, and I wanted the base to be metal in keeping with the theme of this video and relatively simple, as I want to bring this one to work to ensure that I'm never taken seriously in my role. After making the top layer, we can boop on some black for the MDF board, boop, ensuring not to get any on the clay. I'll then poke in the foothole to save drilling later and use the neural texture of a sculpting tool to give the checker plate finish. As this is so thin, I'll just bake it for 5 minutes, but just for future reference, do not put MDF in your oven. But the quick blitz in the oven was more than enough to harden this thin piece of clay, and we can come back with a scalpel and rough it up a little bit. The raw clay gets a simple black wash, which is just some simple cheap black acrylic and expensive water, which I can dab at with a paper towel and my trusty index. This finish is matte, and honestly that works great for concrete, but we're going to give it the same silver dry brush to make it look like it's actually metal. But cracked like concrete apparently. But that's okay, we're learning. Together. We can add a wee bit of rust to the base before moving on to the final part of any of my projects, which is to apply a layer of UV resin to the eyes. And then I can mount Monica on her metal mount, and we are done with this one, team, and roll on those final images. A big old thank you for those that stuck around on this one. Monica will indeed be coming with me to work to sit proudly on my desk as a reminder that I love making these daft little things. As always, please leave a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Comment below and let me know what you think. Is there anything you'd like to see me make on the channel in the future? And most importantly, if you like art but don't art enough, you'll make a mess.